Yo, Zack here with some more Scream scoop for you. So it's been just over a week since the news broke out about Scream 5 going into development. And we haven't been given a whole lot of information, like who's going to be writing or directing, which characters will be returning, if any, and if this entry in the franchise will serve as a sequel, a remake, or a reboot. And while everyone is excited about the prospect of finally getting another Scream movie, I think that as longtime fans of this franchise, we need to be a little more discerning of the information that we are getting, as we need to prepare ourselves for the possibility that this movie might, well, be a steaming pile of shit. Before I break down the research I've done, let me know in the comments down below how excited you are for this movie to get made. If you want to see me create more content about Scream 5, let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. And if you're like me and just love horror movies in general, you might want to consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of my macabre machinations. So I guess when I first read about Scream 5 going into development and that it was going to be produced by Spyglass Media Group, the question on my mind was, who is Spyglass Media Group? Sure, it sounds vaguely familiar, but as far as horror properties go, I'm not entirely certain what they're responsible for producing. Not like, say, a much more reputable company such as Blumhouse, who's churned out some of the more popular horror movies in the last 10 years, with much more coming down the pipeline. And if Spyglass Media Group does sound familiar to you, that's because it originally existed as Spyglass Entertainment, a company that was founded in 1998 by Gary Barber and Roger Birnbaum, who produced a lot of well-known and commercially successful movies up until 2012. In 2010, Barber and Birnbaum both became co-chairmen and CEOs of the holding company of MGM, which at the time had just emerged from bankruptcy. Their plan was to add the Spyglass film library to MGM and continue producing movies under both names. However, this never came to fruition, and Spyglass just kind of fell to the wayside of production company purgatory. Now, I know this sounds entirely complicated and irrelevant, but I do have a point that connects this all to Scream 5, and I'm gonna get to it in just a second here. But first, fast forward to March of 2018. Gary Barber is fired from MGM just 5 months after renewing his contract that would have seen him stick around until 2022. And get this, for his troubles, he got a cool $260 million settlement, which ain't too shabby. I wouldn't mind getting fired for that kind of dough myself. There isn't too much information available on why Barber was dismissed, so it's hard to say if this was for financial or creative reasons. Now, in July of the same year, Dallas-based equity firm Lantern Capital Partners purchased the entire assets of the Weinstein Company in a bankruptcy auction. This would include the Scream franchise. With that, they formed the production company Lantern Entertainment. Fast track 1 year later, Gary Barber partners with Lantern, and together they revive Spyglass Entertainment, rebranding it as Spyglass Media Group. Okay, now that we've gotten all that exposition out of the way, what exactly does this all mean? Well, it means that the sequel and remake rights to one of the most popular horror franchises now belongs to an equity firm and a bigwig Hollywood producer who doesn't seem to understand nor have experience with producing horror movies. And that's a huge red flag, especially when you consider the fact that they want to push Scream 5 ahead sooner than later. Just to give you a little rundown of Gary Barber's history with horror, let's look at his IMDb page. So looking at this list, you can see that he has produced a lot of unmemorable thrillers. As far as horror goes, in 1989, he produced a movie called Communion, starring Christopher Walken. He followed that up with Howling 5: The Rebirth, which is actually a guilty pleasure of mine, but it does have the production value of an old episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? We've got Bad Moon in 1996. And as you can see, as we move into the 2000s, he has produced a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies, which I mean are technically of the horror genre, but I wouldn't call them straight up horror movies. In 2006, he produced Stay Alive. In 2008, he produced The Ruins. So as you can see, there's not really a whole lot of focus on horror movies, as it's kind of a mixed bag of genres here. And the horror movies that we do get are either not great or they're kind of genre bending. Also, if you look at Barber's tenure at MGM, it's quite dodgy. 3 horror movies were produced in the 8-year span that Barber was CEO. 2 of those movies were the remakes of Poltergeist and and Carrie, the third being Cabin in the Woods, which under Barbers' control was delayed for 2 years after the decision to convert the film into 3D was halted due to ongoing financial difficulties at the studio. The film's distribution rights were eventually sold by Barber to Lionsgate, who fortunately kept the movie intact as it was intended to be seen. Had Barber gone ahead with his butchering and quick release of Cabin, it might not have been as well received as it was. Now getting back to Scream 5, if we consider Barber's lack of experience and understanding of producing good horror movies, it could suggest that this is merely going to be a soulless slipshod effort engineered to cash in on the popularity of the Scream name. And if that's the case, and given Barber's history with sidelining good projects while spearheading remakes, we might very well be looking at a remake here. And if Spyglass is set to push forward in that direction, I find it very unlikely that we would get the involvement of Kevin Williamson as a screenwriter or any of the actors returning to play the characters we've come to know and love. And as far as a director goes, would they even bother trying to obtain someone as skillful in the art of suspense as Wes Craven was? Now obviously this is all just speculation, and maybe Gary Barber and Spyglass are going to do something really great with this franchise. I have no vendetta against him or his company, but I want to know as much about this movie as I can since we're all going to be spending our hard-earned dollars to go see it. We've been waiting for this movie for a long time. We just want to make sure it's good. Hopefully I'm 100% wrong about this, but only time will tell. Make sure you subscribe and check in with me to keep up to date on all the Scream 5 Spyglass news. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like this video, you can check out some more Scream related content up in this playlist, or you can see what video of mine YouTube is recommending to you next. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been Zack, and I'll be right back.